Adding and subtracting fractions. So let's look at this fraction addition problem. We've got 4/5 and 1/2. First step is to find our common denominator. And to do that, we need to find the LCM. The LCM, or least common multiple, of 5 and 2 is 10. If you're not sure how to find an LCM, check out my video on LCM. After we find the LCM, we rewrite each fraction with our common denominator. If you're not sure how to do that, check out the video on rewriting with the common denominator. But just as a refresher, I would have to multiply 5 by 2 to get 10, so I'd multiply by 2 on top. 2 times 5 gives me 10 here, so I multiply by 5 on top. Once I have the denominators the same, then I can add the numerators. So now I'm just looking at the 8 and the 5. 8 plus 5 gives me 13. So my final answer would be 13/10. Now, depending on what you need to do with this answer, you may or may not want to leave it like this. This is called an improper fraction. Improper because the top number is bigger than the bottom. That means that this fraction has a value that's greater than 1. So we could convert this to a mixed number. It's pretty easy to do. 10 goes into 13 one time with a remainder of 3. And then we keep that common denominator. So here's our answer as an improper fraction and as a mixed number. And again, both are correct. If you are taking Algebra 1 or anything above Algebra 1, you probably want to leave it like this. This is easier to work with in equations. If you're solving a word problem and you have to find out how much of an object or what length of ribbon or something like that that you have to buy, then you probably want to leave your answer like this. Let's see a visual of this problem. I have here two fractions. I have 4/5 and 1/2, the same two fractions we just looked at. But I want to see a visual of what the addition would look like. When I put those two shaded regions together, you can tell it's definitely more than 1, but it's hard to tell exactly how much more than 1 until we write it with a common denominator. So I'm going to bring down these cuts of 4ths and the half, and you can see it makes a very skinny rectangle. So now we're going to cut the whole shape into those skinny rectangles, and you can probably guess how many rectangles per unit. There are 10, right? We have 10 as our common denominator, so we're cutting each piece into tenths. So the 4/5 becomes 8/10, and the 1/2 becomes 5/10, and you can see that shaded. And then together we add them up and get 13/10 or 1 3/10, like we saw before. Let's look at the same two fractions since we already have the common denominator part, but let's look at what it would be if we subtracted them. So like I said, we already rewrote these fractions, so we already know what they're going to equal when we rewrite them. 4/5 we're going to rewrite as 8/10, and 1/2 we're going to rewrite as 5/10, right? Same thing. But now we're subtracting. So if we're subtracting these two fractions, again, we're just looking at the top number, right? The numerator. 8 minus 5 gives me 3, and I keep that bottom number the same. I keep the denominator. So my answer to this subtraction problem would be 3/10. Let's see what that looks like as a visual. So I have 4/5 here, and I'm subtracting 1/2, right? Just like we did a minute ago. I'm going to make this bigger so that we can see it on the whole screen. And I'm going to click subtract. So here comes I'm going to move this over too. Here comes my 4/5 bring it straight down, and I bring my 1/2 straight down. And you can see that the difference, or the gap that's missing, is this red double-sided arrow, I guess you can call it. This is the piece that's missing. That's our difference. That's what we're looking for. We know that our common denominator is 10. So I can multiply 4/5 by 2 on the top and bottom to make it 8/10. Then with the 1/2, I can keep that multiplying. 2, that's not enough. By 3, that's not enough. Not enough. There we go. Multiply top and bottom by 5 to get 5/10. So over here, I have now rewritten my problem with a common denominator. And you can see that my shape is broken up into tenths. 8 of them are blue, 5 of them are green. The piece that's missing, or the gap, that little red arrow there, would be 8 minus 5. 8/10 take away 5/10 would give me 3/10. So that's what it would look like as a visual. And that's it.